Tesla CEO Elon Musk says recession could last until spring 2024. Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk expects a global recession to last until the spring of 2024. Musk added that his two companies are in good positions but many others are not. Recessions do have a silver lining in that companies that shouldn't exist stop existing, the Tesla boss said. Tesla CEO Elon Musk shared his thoughts about a global recession in a Twitter thread Friday. The thread was started by Dogecoin co-creator Billy Marcus, who tweeted, "Coronavirus
with the stock this overnight and then this morning too. What do you think it really comes from? What was the street hearing or not hearing on the call?"
Well, if you're a growth stock story and the company is saying they're not going to hit their target of 50% growth this year, then you've got a problem, right? Now, there's a lot of positives there if you're a long-term view, if you're bullish, near record profit, more free cash flow than expected, these other things in the record profit, more free cash flow than expected, these other things in the buyback, potential buyback for next year. But
you said that it sounded like Elon and some of the other managers were a little defensive on the call. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, if you look at the results in the past year, near record results and profitability in the last 3 months, generating cash flow that just a few years ago would have seemed highly improbable. These are kind of huge, ambitious targets that they've reached. Yet this is a company that has huge expectations. And if you're not meeting those already high expectations, then you're going to get punished in the market. Remember, it was Elon who earlier this year was saying that deliveries could rise 60% this year. So the fact that they're not going to hit 50% is troubling to some.
Let's talk about one of his latest kind of targets. I don't know if you call this a target or just a prediction, the idea that the stock for Tesla could be much more valuable down the road. Let's listen into what he had to say about future market valuation.
I'm of the opinion that we can far exceed Apple's current market cap. In fact, I see a potential path for Tesla to be worth more than Apple and Saudi Aramco combined.
So that's a big number. You don't often hear predictions like that from CEOs. But again, Elon Musk is somebody, as you mentioned, Tim, who will make some pretty bold predictions. How do you think that sat with people who were on the call?
Well, it's like Babe Ruth, right? Pointing to the stands. And it's not the first time he's done it. He did it a few years ago saying that Tesla was going to be as big as Apple. And Apple at the time was, $700 billion. And they ultimately did it. In the last few years. But at the time, it seemed rather audacious and rather ridiculous, if not insane. And here he is doing it again. Now, the challenge here is, in order to do that, he's building in the math that this is going to be a company that's more than just selling cars, more than just selling solar panels, more than just selling battery packs, that it's going to be a leader in autonomous cars, but also a leader of robotics. And that robotics part is where some kind of question the near-term capabilities of the company. It hasn't quite demonstrated that it can really do everything that it has said or promised it can do. So that's the challenge. I think some watching those numbers being thrown out tend to roll their eyes on it, but the faithful are going to be along for the ride.
What about any questions about Twitter? It did seem to kind of make it sound like he's ready to do this Twitter deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things I was just kind of surprised that he engaged on that question. Traditionally, Elon likes to avoid talking about other businesses when he's talking about on a Tesla call or doing something with SpaceX. So clearly wanting to get the message out that he's, ready to go on that, even if he's overpaying, which is what he said. It sounds like perhaps we're getting close to having this rolled up, if you will. And I think the market is looking to see, is he going to have to bring this rolled up, if you will? And I think the market is looking to see, is he going to have to sell more of his Tesla shares to fund this deal? We'll be able to see in the next few days, perhaps.
Musk's newfound empire. That includes his ongoing deal for social media site Twitter and SpaceX's satellite network. Let's bring, we should report, is according to Bloomberg. Let's bring in Yahoo Finance's Alexis Keenan, who's tracking this. Alexis, let's start with what's happening with Twitter, because this is an interesting one, given that the concern is really about who's part of this investment group for Twitter, that there are foreign players in here that could potentially signal a conflict.
Right. So what Bloomberg is reporting is that U.S. officials in the Biden administration are concerned about the Twitter deal to the extent that it has foreign investors, including the Saudi Arabian Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, as well as Binance, which has a Chinese founder and has backing from Qatar's sovereign wealth fund. So that's where they're saying that, according to sources, there are maybe some concerns. Now, they also go on to say that it's not really clear which agency would originate this kind of inquiry, but one of the usual suspects is CFIUS. That's the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. That committee in 2018 was given a lot of expanded authority to conduct these types of threat assessments over possible security concerns that arise from foreign investment in U.S. companies. And they even got expanded authority to look at those multinational deals that result in less than foreign control, which was the former case for the agency. Especially, they got some authority to look at investments that involve companies that are engaged in technology and personal data. Of course, the Twitter deal would qualify, I would think, perhaps under that standard. Now, the idea that the security review of a security review at all based on national security concerns, it's been raised previously with respect to SpaceX's Starlink satellite network, but it's the first time we're hearing about it raised with respect to the Twitter deal. That's certainly sparking a lot of questions about whether the government could end up derailing this deal, and certainly part of that contract for the merger between the two companies. It does require that it surpass any regulatory and government review. So that's getting a lot of talk here. Elon Musk already tweeting that in response to this Bloomberg piece, saying, commenting on a Twitter post that said it would be hilarious if the government ended being the one to derail this tie-up between Twitter and Musk's companies that he's formed in order to effectuate this merger.
Really quickly, Alexis, any of us who have followed these CFIUS reviews in the past know that this is never a quick turnaround. And we are talking months and months and months of review. If, in fact, that's triggered, what does that mean for the deal?
Well, Akiko, CFIUS can take a look at transactions that are already that have already happened. So they can go back and try to get some agreements from companies that have already done the deal. So it doesn't necessarily stop the deal from going forward, but the government could also intervene and say, we would like to have some things ironed out before it does commence. So we'll certainly be watching the deadline that the court has put on the deal, which is October 28th, next Friday, 1 week from today. But look, yes, it could go on for a very long time, these types of inquiries, but it doesn't mean that it just stops the deal in its tracks.